Everyone. This is GamerWatch podcast. We are back with episode 4. Today we want to be talking about toxicity in gaming. I'm here with Ash. Say hi.
Yo, what's up?
So yeah, we coming off these heavy conversations we had in episodes 2 and 3. Where we were talking about like Twitch and sexual assault allegations. Obviously, with the crazy world we live in, Twitch has almost in a weird way forgotten about that because we're now after Reckful's death, which was pretty impactful, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it was definitely just the magnitude of the type of person he was.
Yeah.
He was basically started, I guess, the father. Well, not the father, but he was like one of the leads of streaming. Like
Yeah,
getting
I've
that
seen him
started.
dubbed as the godfather of Twitch. Would you agree with
Right.
that?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And then all the real life streaming and all that stuff. I think someone was talking about him normalizing donations within streaming also. So
Mm-hmm.
he definitely had a huge impact as a streamer, but also as a person in many aspects. So
Yeah.
rest in peace. It was definitely a huge loss for the community.
Yeah, like I myself, I've never been much of a Twitch person until only like very recently, and even I knew about him through one of mine and Ash's mutual friends. He mentioned Reckful all the time. Got a lot of like memes from there, sayings from there. He was obviously very big in, even in BFA, all the way through BFA. In the very beginning of BFA, I recall him streaming, making a quote unquote comeback to PvP. Seeing him do really well, even for being out of the game for so long. Because from my understanding, he had his original account banned, and there was some mess there. But yeah, like so for someone even like him to for me to know him, I think like that's kind of a big deal because I was not. That shows you how far his reach was. Like he was that impactful of a member in the Twitch community, and so naturally his suicide, segues into sort of like what we with this episode sort of brings us to this episode. I shouldn't say segues. So I mean, do you want to go into like his suicide or like his death and just mention that initially to just give people, for
Right.
those out there who don't know about him,
So
some
yeah,
details?
a couple of days ago, Reckful passed away. Um,
Yeah.
and so initially, so there's some talk about surrounding what exactly happened. That
Yeah.
morning, he actually proposed to his girlfriend over Twitter.
Ex-girlfriend.
Ex-girlfriend, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
Becca, I think, was her name. And then,
Mm-hmm.
so of course, he put his heart out on Twitter, and as people are on the internet, right? There was some, you know, a lashback, from, how it is. People in general giving toxic answers, toxic replies, like, "Oh my gosh, how you do this?" All that
Yeah,
stuff, right?
memeing and things like that. Yeah.
And so, and then he posted another tweet saying, "I'm sorry, people had to like deal with me and all that stuff," right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, he ended up like someone else posted, "Hey, your Reckful is gone," and so there's been talk like, where did it start? Where did it really begin for these thoughts for him? And I mean, I think he did have like I think it was bipolar, I believe, was what he had.
Yeah. Seems like it. Yeah.
Yeah, so he had these mental issues going on for a long time, and so I guess but people didn't think necessarily it was like this far, this bad, and so initially there was some blame on the replies to that initial thread he made, proposing to Becca, right,
Yeah.
his ex girlfriend,
Mm-hmm.
and so there was initially blame there, but then I think eventually like people came to the conclusion that this has been something that's building up for a long time, and anything could have set him off, right?
Yeah.
And so that prompted like a bigger discussion about toxicity in the gaming community, and I think I forget who did it, but who said this, but they had a nice example how each comment someone made, like a bad comment, was like a drop in an ocean of like bad or negative actions against him. So each drop added to the ocean, and then eventually just broke the dam, and you know.
Yeah, like I wouldn't go so far as to say like, oh, maybe like this was a direct result of
Right.
online backlash. He clearly had some issues. I know from his family, his older brother committed suicide when he was quite a bit younger, quite a few years ago, and that he obviously carried that with him for a long time, well over a decade, I believe, at this point. And also on top of that, he was, Reckful was like part of the reason he had such a huge following and from what I understand such a huge impact is because he was like very open and vulnerable and like he had he would stream like sessions with a with a therapist. Although they didn't technically count as therapy sessions, he would live stream them. Something no one, as far as I know, no one that big ever had done anything
Yeah,
like
he's
that.
the
And he was
reason that that doctor became actually pretty famous in for his what he did.
Yeah, they talked about like very serious subject matters and very heavy topics. So this was kind of all he was struggling, and it just goes beyond just the random occasional Twitter comment. This is stuff he was dealing with for quite a long time. But like I said, it brings us here now to a conversation about toxicity in gaming. I mean, so Ash, have you not to to sort of dial it back a few gears, we haven't really dealt with anything on the level he has, but
Right.
I would say that we probably have occasionally encountered toxicity, whether internally or from external sources. Ash, have you ever sort of dealt with much in your life, in your gaming time?
Right. So, for me personally, like, because my main games are World of Warcraft and Overwatch,
Yeah.
I World of Warcraft there isn't that much toxicity because usually, you're within a guild usually or playing with friends, so
Yeah.
there's less chances for like there's less chance for you with random people in general, and so the chances of toxicity brought up in those scenarios is really downplayed, or not downplayed. There's really rare chances of that actually happening.
Hmm.
It might happen during a Mythic Plus, It usually happens when you're like leveling up a new character and you have to do like random content or early level content with random people.
Hmm.
And so there's chances, and you always see this post on like Reddit, right, about oh, this guy just left, or this guy blamed me for this, right? The toxicity there.
Hmm.
But there isn't like that much toxicity. Overwatch, on the other hand, is way more toxic. I think a lot of people would agree. FPS in general can be pretty toxic. And I'll admit, personally, I have been, I wouldn't say like hardcore toxic, but just I guess I say these things it's out of frustration sometimes, and looking back, it's I guess it's easier to say I shouldn't have done that, but at the time I just frustration gets you sometimes.
Does it feel like you're venting, or does it feel like you're
I think
sort
inventing. I
of
mean, like, so World of Warcraft, like when I'm leveling up,
Mhm.
I guess this is the one problem people have with World of Warcraft sometimes is the level up process can be tedious, and
Mm.
when you have more experienced players, just want to level up like their fifth, sixth, seventh character, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're running with people who are new, or newer, it can be frustrating because like I don't want to be here in the first place, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you're running and trying to like maybe you try to do stuff more efficiently or how to do it more efficiently, it can be lead to like some discourse between maybe what's expected and what needs to be done or what people think they should be doing, right?
Yeah, there's like an experience gap, so
Yeah,
therefore there's
exactly.
natural like inconsistent, or I guess people are on different levels. I
Exactly.
guess.
And then there's, I
Yeah.
mean, again, there's a lot of Reddit posts about this, like, oh my gosh, this tank, he pulling too much, or they're kicking me because I didn't know what to do. And so I think there's a communication gap and experience gap that leads to this toxicity
Mm-hmm.
situation environment, right?
Yeah.
And so I think, I mean, I never say anything outright. When I have someone new, I just like I don't try to because I realize sometimes people are not experienced, been playing
Mm-hmm.
this game as long. So I don't try to like do anything fancy as maybe I would when it's current content, but I just unconsciously do what I think is like the most optimal just to playing it just due to being able to play it at the current content, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
do these pulls or like tank it a certain way, right? And some people will tend to maybe not agree with that or they die because they're not sure about it.
Sure.
And I mean, usually I'm not one for um, lashing out or by any means, but I guess mostly when someone doesn't communicate they're new or doesn't say anything about that, and then all of a sudden they start, yelling at other people, and then I tend to get maybe a little bit frustrated, kind of from that point.
Naturally, you're only human, and like that stuff like that. Of course, that's gonna happen over time. I mean, as long as you like own it in a certain way, like you'll eventually like. So, I mean, were there any other instances you wanted to talk about, or should I get into mine?
I mean, Overwatch also, uh,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
people can be. I think that's a lot more toxicity there.
Uh huh.
I'll admit I also vent a little bit in frustration. Usually when I say something, usually like people will say when logically looking without emotions, like, oh, you just don't say anything at all. It's just one game, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I guess sometimes you get in the moment of the game. I don't say anything. I usually, if I do say something, it's usually at the end of the game, right, when everyone's leaving,
Mm-hmm.
as a way of venting. But I won't ever, you know, I won't ever say anything to anyone unless they say it first. If that makes sense,
Right.
like
You'll fight fire with fire, I guess.
I guess yeah. I'm not one to like. I guess some people ignore it. They're like, oh, whatever. But I'll be like, usually I'll either talk about like what's going on at the time, right, or like
Mm-hmm.
why. Like they'll say, oh, you're bad at X, Y, and Z, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll return with an example like, oh, but your positioning was bad here that led to this and this and this, right?
Yeah.
And that gets into a greater conflict, but usually because people are not expecting someone to talk back most of the time, right?
Usually, yeah.
Right. So when you get into that, either two things will happen: either they'll back off, or it escalates even further. There's no like middle ground. There's no like open discussion happening about what's happening, right? It's either
Sure.
they'll back off because they didn't expect someone to talk back to them, or they're escalated to like far beyond.
Yeah,
So
and pride. People get
right,
angry
right,
over their
and
pride.
I
Yeah.
get that. I understand that.
Yeah.
It's a FPS game. You're obviously gonna get attract a certain type of people, right?
Sure.
So
Yeah.
yeah, there's that, and that opens up. I've especially seen a lot of toxicity in Overwatch in general, FPS games in general, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, people, there's toxicity against, there's various types of groups, and people are just looking for like low hanging fruit, right? They're just looking for the first thing they can be toxic about.
Mm-hmm.
Like people will be when someone's flaming another dude, right? Because majority of people, I don't know the exact percentages, but I think majority of people in Overwatch are still males, right? So like they'll flame everything about like the guy's personal life, oh, his if he's a virgin or not. They'll look for the low hanging fruit to flame them about, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like it just something about I don't know why specific FPS games, but like I think they attract a certain amount of people or a certain type of personality, and B, just like the type of game you're playing, it just leads to this frustration, maybe, especially since Overwatch is a team-based game. That's for sure.
Yeah, like I mean FPS. So just to get into it, for me personally, like I dealt with a lot of toxicity, in Call of Duty, like lobbies and things like that, especially Call of Duty, like Modern Warfare 2, like things like that, World at War. Obviously, there's just nonstop, people throwing out hard R's and language like that,
Right.
talking about each other's mothers and how
Yeah,
fat they
exactly.
are and stuff like that. Just the standard like teenage crap. But even beyond that, in World of Warcraft, within guilds, like yeah, it's definitely significantly cut down because guilds are sort of self-contained and filter out a lot of that, especially at a casual level. They don't, people don't really tolerate that or want that, and usually, to be honest, like the toxic people won't even be drawn to those guilds because they're toxic because, as you said, like they have this like maybe a more competitive edge and they want to
Right.
push harder content. But it's still there. It's still there in casual guilds, especially if like a leadership or officers aren't vigilant about filtering that out. If they're like a little more lackadaisical and laid back and don't necessarily take things head on, it will be there. Like I myself probably got caught up in quite a bit of talking crap about people behind their backs, especially in my younger days of Warcraft. Just it's something that I even to this day want to like catch myself doing because it's just not ultimately productive to do. It's not ideal. Like if you have something bad to say about someone, I've tried to live by the motto, say it to their face. I'm not always successful at that, but it's there. Or at least I wouldn't say something behind their back that I haven't already said to their face. But I would be much more like, I guess, kinder about it. But in Overwatch as well, it's obviously there. I always try when I get in like rank matches or whatever to try and set the tone early in team chat and like joke around before the match even starts or whatever, and like say like, hey guys, we're gonna be as toxic as possible to each other if we lose, and just if you get off on the right foot, maybe people are a little
I
less
feel like that doesn't really
inclined.
work out.
You feel
Because
like what?
I feel like that doesn't even work out because I've had games where people are like really, they're joking with each other, all that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But as soon as you start losing, all of a sudden people start flaming each other, no matter like what type of atmosphere there is. It's
Oh,
all
I'm
fun
not
and games
saying
until
it's
we
it's
start
it's
losing,
definitely
right?
not like 100% foolproof. Like it's definitely, yeah, it can very easily
Right.
get out of
Yeah.
control. Like I mentioned, like with people's egos and stuff like that. Like when they start clashing, like it won't end until someone leaves, pretty much, or mutes or whatever. Some people just can't handle any sort of, like they don't know how to de-escalate the situation. You mentioned escalating it, but de-escalating is, not all that common in FPS games. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, people have egos. I mean, they're not going to take the. They're not going to let the other person have the last word ever. It's all
But when
about having.
it's yeah, but when it's happening in like gold and platinum and even diamond, like these are like not like super high tiers where people expect, like I understand that they're ranked matches and people want to push their rating, but it's not like it's Overwatch League. It's not like it's you guys are like people are GMs. Like I just think like it's no matter what. No one is going to have a perfect match. Like there's always a shot you could have hit that you missed, and unless you have a perfect match, I feel like toxicity shouldn't be coming to begin with. I don't know. That's just my motto. I just try and control what I can control. Like I try and do as much as I can within myself. And if other people are struggling, it's no big deal because I can only control what I do. So it's not the end of the world. But I don't know. That's just my like personal like ethos about it. So it's just like yes, there's definitely like it does. I mean, like I said, I've been toxic myself. Like not as much in Overwatch. I would say more in World of Warcraft though. I definitely have been, and even in other MMOs like Guild Wars 2 or Star Wars: Old Republic. Like just sometimes when drama gets out of control or whatever it is, like guild drama is almost inevitable. No guild raids forever. There's it just never will be that way. Like not even Method will survive forever, right? Obviously, so
Right.
like a guild as good as that. So I try and I've gotten better, but I could definitely do more to sort of help contribute to the or to help better, I guess, the toxic environments that sometimes manifest.
True. Very true. And
Yeah.
so, do you think? So, why do you think people are toxic in general? Is it because they're just? Is it more of like a self ego type of thing, or are they like? What are they trying to reach for? You think in that situation?
I mean, I don't want to play like armchair psychologist. Like it depends on the circumstances, right? But
Right.
like from what I always see, like when there's like a level of toxicity that's been reached within say just a single conversation of a single Overwatch match, like usually that's comes down to egos, right? Because Overwatch is just that's just it's the environment for egos to clash. Any FPS, like it is naturally a zero sum game. One team wins, one team loses, usually, rather than draws. And like if you don't do well, that means you're doing less well than the other team. The other team is bettering you, and therefore that like naturally goes against like that hits your ego. And so the way people can't necessarily they have a hard time owning their faults and flaws. And so at least to me, when I see people clashing in Overwatch, like sometimes they're just talking nonsense. The other day I think I saw someone talking about how I think they said you should play Junkrat or something. I think it was some ranked match that I was healing, and someone said you should play Junkrat, but we were playing into. They were arguing you should play Junkrat to break shields, but they were the DPS they were facing were Pharah and Echo. So it's like like when people get toxic and these two people started yelling at each other, they're not necessarily even right. Like I'm sure you've heard toxicity where people just devolve and the arguments devolve into just nonsense, right?
Yeah. I mean, it
Yeah.
does come through that. Honestly, I mean, personally, actually, here's one story that just happened or experience that just happened.
Mm-hmm.
We were in overtime. I forget the map, but there was a discussion. So one of the DPS went Widow, right? And so they were discussing that how Widow's not a good pick, even though he got two picks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the other DPS were saying there's not enough raw damage there because Widow's not like high pump damages like
Mm-hmm.
Junkrat, right? So instead of like actually playing the game, they spent like the whole overtime just arguing, oh, we need like higher damage, and then so the one DPS is saying, oh, it's not about your skill level, you just played the wrong class, right? And,
Right.
and then he's saying, oh, it's not your fault though for choosing the wrong class. You could have not known, right? Like the ignorance type of argument he was making.
Mm-hmm.
So that just went on for the whole time. And I was like, oh, you don't know that much. I knew better. You should have just listened to me, type of deal, right? So
Sure.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. It's definitely an ego type of thing there. And there's more specific uh, types of toxicity within or subsections toxicity, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know SVB made a video on female the toxicity female faces
He
in games,
did. Yeah, that was a pretty. I remember back when it came out, you and I talked about it.
right?
And as a matter of fact, we tried to schedule him for an interview. His schedule was just too busy. But yeah, sorry. What were you gonna say?
No, it just like he brought up like specifically the subsection of what they face as females um, in just in gaming in general. I
Mm-hmm.
know there's been a lot of videos about like females joining like this more FPS because when I envision like when I see FPS games, they tend to be like more male dominated, right? But more toxic at the same time.
Yeah.
And I guess being a female in those games can be like, I mean, I don't like so. I guess the argument is, do they really hate females, or are they just looking for low hanging fruit to like grab and be toxic about, right?
Mm-hmm. So
So
what you're saying is like as easy as it would be for me to rag on you for having like if I was going to be randomly toxic towards you and just say the easiest thing that came to mind, such as your mom is fat or something like that, you're saying the easiest low hanging fruit to go at a chick is just her sex. Like just talk
right,
about that, right?
yeah, it's these things. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you don't even look if they get any kills on it. It's just, oh, you're a female, I can dismiss you easily because it's been proven before that usually like previous times, right? Males
Mm-hmm.
usually or boys usually play the games more, right?
Yeah, I believe, and so just FYI, I googled it, and I believe, I mean, take this with a grain of salt. Overwatch's player base is split up about 75% male, 25% female. So sorry, yeah, go ahead, carry on.
Right. And so yeah, I mean, and I believe Overwatch is way more like people give it flack for like it being toxic and everything, right? But I feel like compared to like CS:GO and Rainbow Siege, right? I
Mm-hmm.
feel like Overwatch is still like more, I guess, progressive. I don't know. I don't know if the progressive is the word. More accepting kind of females in a way, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I bet everyone has the stories, right? But I feel like compared to Rainbow Siege and like CS:GO type of deals, like which is more traditional FPS games,
Yeah.
I guess Overwatch is like more allowing, but yeah, they do still face face the respective toxicity when they're. But it's not like I honestly do believe like most of the time it's just low hanging fruit. They're looking for a reason to be toxic, and it's easy. It's easy to just flame someone for being female, dismiss them instantly because they're female, right? Because it's such a low hanging fruit there, right?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're female. You don't know how to shoot a plus play FPS. You don't know how to shoot game or shoot anything. Oh, you're just a mercy main. Well, you can't do anything, right? So it's so easy to do that. And so
I,
I mean, they come around and it's I feel like that part of it also is that you have roles which are not, as I mentioned, because a lot of them I don't know if a lot of them play mercy, right? It's just my
mm-hmm.
experience has led me to believe that. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's true or not, right? I don't know. I don't have any stats, but when you have characters that don't require aim, along with characters that do require mechanical skill,
Mm-hmm.
I think that can create like you mashing people like traditional FPS players, right? Along with people who are more of like teamwork and you know awareness and all that stuff, right? Those other skills,
For sure.
and so you might get a clash of players that have vastly different personalities, egos, and drive within the game, and so that can lead to some conflict right there. And I don't know how to bridge it. I think that's just societal shift over time as more females enter gaming, right? I feel like
Yeah.
that will allow for more acceptance of them in general.
Yeah, like Overwatch is, a little bit different than the rest of the FPSs in the sense that, they have um I guess characters like in terms of like what you said mechanical skill, just vast differences in terms of like heroes. Like I'm not saying that doesn't exist in like Valorant or well
Right.
CS:GO is a little more straightforward of a game or like Rainbow Six. However, I'd say that yeah, the player base does need to sort of undergo like as more and more women join the FPS genre, right? Like obviously it's a male dominated genre, but over time that will change. Like I remember a few years back, maybe it was a year back, that the first female Overwatch League player, like there was
Yeah.
one on a team, and it was like a big deal. but I don't think she's around anymore.
I think she's
If
still. I think she's on one of the Chinese teams still. But
oh
there's
she
actually a lot
okay,
of
all right,
a lot of uh a lot of stuff surrounding like a lot of controversy. I think her name's Gregory or something like that.
okay.
Gregory, or yeah. I
Well,
don't know.
so
Wait, what?
sorry, no, you go ahead.
No, yeah. Her name was I think Gregory or something like that. She's on one
Mm-hmm.
of the. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing her name, but
Mm-hmm.
she's on one of the Chinese teams, I believe, still.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there was a lot of controversy surrounding her because people accused her of cheating until she proved she wasn't cheating on Zarya, right?
Yeah.
And the two people who accused her, right? So I don't know if it's like it was
How do you even
sexist.
cheat on Zarya? I don't even
Well, because so
understand.
before it was like it was not a LAN thing, like a LAN tournament or whatever. It wasn't in person.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So Zarya, I mean, you could have aimbot right with her.
Oh, was it contenders
I don't know exactly what. I think it was
before they
before
joined?
maybe. I'm
Okay.
not quite sure on like what tournament it was, but
Yeah.
like it was online, right? And she had insane, stats as Zarya, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, you could aimbot with as tracking, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the thing is, two people accused her, right? They said, "Hey, we think you're cheating, and we want you." I don't know if they wanted her to prove it, but she said she would prove it in tournament, right, or
Mm-hmm.
in person. And they said, "Hey, we will quit. We will quit Overwatch if you prove that you're as good as you are. We think you're cheating, right?"
Mm-hmm.
So she comes out, proves them wrong, right? One of them
Mm-hmm.
quits Overwatch. The other one, I think he temporarily took a break and then came back later, right? But
Okay.
she came out and was like, "Hey, I'm here. I'm here to stay, right? I proved you guys wrong," and one of them quit. So,
Yeah, it's like it's unfortunate that it got to that point. Like that.
but was it? Do you think it's due to say like people because she was a female or because they were just egotistical about like
I
losing?
mean, I mean, did they?
I don't
Did
know exactly
they?
if there's
Did
so I
they
can't speak.
throw that challenge out there to anyone else who they thought had really good statistics? Because I don't know. That just seems a little. Yeah, it
Well,
does. It seems a little sexist. Yeah, I'd say so. Like you have to prove yourself. How dare you have such good statistics? I mean, if they never showed a history of issuing the same challenge to other men, then I mean, I think that it would be fair to say that
okay, yeah. So
they
then
were at.
I mean, she came out and proved herself. Like she's like,
Yeah,
what you got for me, right? I came out and proved my stuff,
sure.
and one of them did quit. So I mean, at least they're a man of their word, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, so all this talk, obviously, just to get back to it with regards to toxicity, like, yeah, there are different versions, I guess, of toxicity. Obviously, toxicity towards women, toxicity towards just, lower experienced players, toxicity towards even elder gamers or things like that, toxicity towards even certain heroes, certain classes, certain games in general. Like, people will certainly be more toxic in other games. But especially with regards to toxicity towards female, I feel like that's a decent enough. That brings us to the conversation about Alinity. You want to like go into detail about a little bit about her situation
Right,
and what's been going on?
right. So after Reckful passed away, right?
Mm-hmm.
Alinity was on stream and saying she's facing. I don't know if she's used the word similar criticism, but like she was facing
Mm-hmm.
criticism that caused her to think about suicide and all that stuff, right? She
Yeah.
one point I believe said, "Hey, it's either suicide or leave Twitch," right?
Right.
So she's like, "Oh, I'm getting all this lashback way worse than word Reckful." I don't know. I don't have a comparison like toxicity levels. I don't know if that's even something that's measured, right? But
Yeah.
she did face a lot of criticism for her previous actions.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and she says it's not deserved anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so she did go on Dr. K's show to
Mm-hmm.
talk about it with them, type of deal.
Yeah, that's where her quote came from, I believe, right? One of the sessions with him.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah. And so yeah, that quote in particular struck me as a little odd, just because. So I don't. Okay, admittedly, I didn't watch the VOD, but it felt like she was trying to parallel her situation uh, with Reckfuls, and I mean, I don't know if that's her situation, if that was necessarily a fair comparison to make, because this is, something like I don't know enough about her, to be honest. Like I'm not, like I said, I'm very naive to like what has been going on with Twitch over the last few years, but I do know that she was the person that tossed her pet or something. I know she got banned a little more recently with regards to something she showed on stream, and then I know that she got some hate from the Doctor Disrespect ban, right? Like somehow people connected that situation to her, and like were showed her a particular level of toxicity towards her, like blaming her in a way, or almost saying like, how dare Dr. Disrespect get banned when Alinity didn't get banned. So I don't know, I just found her quote odd just because it felt a little forced, or maybe like she misunderstood Reckful's situation. I don't know how familiar or friendly she was with Reckful. I don't know. Do you have any like insight into that?
I'm not quite sure. Like I don't know like how close they were or not, but
Yeah.
right. So she did face, as you mentioned, like her action. I think the similarities between her situation and Reckful's situation, they both received like hardcore death threats and all that stuff, right?
Okay.
Sure. And so that was the overlap between them two, like, because that's what I consider true toxicity, like the true hate. No one deserves that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So after that, yeah, so that's the overlap. But the difference between Reckful and then Lindy is that Lindy, in my opinion, has done actions that deserve, that warrant the criticism, right?
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, so people chose to prey on Reckful just to how he is as a person, right? He's a big guy, big streamer,
Mm-hmm.
like personality wise. So that was I think that he, right, as he had mental issues, right? It was I
Mm-hmm.
think easier to say these kind of things to him in a
Mm-hmm.
certain atmosphere. But then with Alinity, right, her actions did warrant criticism, in my opinion. But then they also went, people take it too far, right?
Of course.
Like so some of her actions were like 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 feeding her cat vodka, throwing the cat.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think someone mentioned that she married a guy and then just for his green card. I don't know how true that is, but she did a nip slip, right? And
Mm-hmm.
which is, it's not about the nip slip itself, it's about the lack of standards across the
Across the
punishments,
platform. Yeah.
right? And so, but her defense to that was like, hey, it's not me who gets to choose that, it's Twitch, right?
I mean, and that's fair.
I
That
mean,
is
yeah,
fair.
sure. People have all the conspiracies about her and Twitch, right? But the point is, I feel like people in her situation, I think it is different because what led to the hate is that people taking, I guess, valid criticism way too far, right? They're like, oh, you use action that deserve criticism. Let me escalate it to a death threat.
Right. Right.
Well, and people are like, oh, well, it's justifiable because she did these bad things, right? But
But
I
from
think that's
what I
always the
saw with
line.
her was like I saw like a level of contrition. Like for okay, and granted, this was from clips from her session with Dr. K. I didn't watch again. I didn't watch the whole
Right, yeah.
thing, but like I see like a person who she's trying to better herself,
I mean, that's good
and
then. I think, yeah.
like so I it feels like what Reckful's death has sort of spawned, what has come from it is like this concerted effort to sort of like as a community try and like lean a little bit more positive, don't you think?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if Linity is 100% trying to change,
Mm-hmm.
better on her. I will not hold her past actions against her. I personally wouldn't, right?
Yeah.
She shows she is changing. Some people have said that this is all an act, but I guess we'll see, right? But yeah, if she's changing, I think this is a good thing. I mean, Vectful suicide is a terrible thing, and if I wish she
Mm-hmm.
could be alive still, 100%, right? But if something good can come out of it, then you
Yeah.
know, let it be that we get a more positive community out of this, right? Positive
Yeah.
streamers. So
Yeah, when I first saw that this person that Alinity was like I saw like Alinity had VODs with Dr. K, or like clips like an entire stream session, maybe multiple for all I know. I'm actually not 100% sure. And then I even saw like recently Sweet Anita was Dr. K was talking to her about some stuff she'd been through. You know, it's good to see like people are being a little more open about their mental health, and like it's helping to remove the stigma surrounding it, and like showing that it is okay. Again, although Dr. K does preface that these don't count as actual therapy sessions, he's just being there. Being, I think he's said that he's just being a good person. He's just listening to people who want to be listened to. They're not necessarily like it's not like they're paying him for for therapy sessions and then streaming that. However, if this does some good, like even if let's say the motives behind people who want to have these sessions with Dr. K, like they might be capitalizing on Reckful's death for all we know. I don't know for sure though. I can't read people's minds.
Right.
If we see that good is coming from it, you know, that's a change, a positive change. We're going in the right direction, because I mean, until that point, like a lot of times people talk about live stream fails and the just like the cesspool of toxicity that it is, right?
Yeah, there's actually some changes to live stream trails on Reddit.
Oh, right. You want to go into that?
Yeah, sure. So,
Yeah.
as you may not know, right? Live stream fails are just where people post like drama. I think I call it drama on Reddit, pretty much subreddit. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
posting random stuff about streamers in there,
Mm-hmm.
and this has created, I guess, again, as you said, a cesspool of just drama-filled, petty people. I would
Mm-hmm.
say most of the time, just feeding off of the bad stuff that's happened to people
Yeah.
necessarily, and the bad actions also. So yeah, they made some changes. Well, we can actually pull it up right now. Actually, if I think that'd be.
Sure. So, okay. Well, do you want to pull it up while I'll go into detail a little
Yeah,
bit
sure.
about it. From what I understand, streamers can opt in and out of even having their content clips be posted on there, right? I believe that is one of the things. So they can opt out of being on live stream fails if they want. As far as I know.
So yeah, I do have it up right now actually.
Okay,
So,
go for it. Yeah.
so yeah, harassment. They cannot. So they changed how you cannot submit things that are not clips.
Mm-hmm.
They actually banned Keemstar threads from the whole thing.
What do you think about that?
So they're. I don't know. I feel like. So they're actually. So what they say, they quoted Slasher when they said Keemstar does not originally do original reporting,
Mm-hmm.
manufactures drama, and for this reason we believe he's a dangerous presence to have in the LSF community,
Yeah.
and decided to ban him from the subreddit.
I think it was a reasonable. I think that's reasonable.
I mean,
from
I
what
feel
I
like-
understand of Keemstar.
Yeah, I mean, we all know what Keemstar is pretty much. He
Yeah,
is drama
he's
reincarnated.
TMZ. He's TMZ basically, right?
But I mean, at the same time, that's what LSF is. You know what I mean? It kind of is. So, sure, Keemstar does know original reporting, right? But
Mm-hmm.
like at the same time, saying he manufactures drama. I mean, that's
Yeah.
kind of what this is pretty much. But
He's
in terms of,
definitely
like,
shouldn't be the sole scapegoat. I mean, I would say that.
yeah, right. If they're using him as a scapegoat, saying, "Oh, this is
Yeah.
Keemstar stuff," yeah, I think it's a good overall, like a PMA type of deal.
Mm-hmm.
This is a good decision. Like, I think banning Keemstar will push us in the, I guess, right direction.
Mm-hmm.
But LSF as in general has always been like that type of drama-filled cesspool. So I don't know. Like from like a PMA standpoint, 100%. Like it would be better with no Keemstar, right?
PMA, by the way, being positive mental attitude.
Right.
For those who
It
don't
just
know,
something.
yeah.
It's just it'd be more positive actions occurring with Keemstar. One less drama person. I mean,
Yeah.
it's always gonna be better, right?
Sure. So what else? What other changes did they
So
make?
right, I mean, it looks like they just had some new moderators, I believe, which is whatever, right?
Yeah.
So they changed the harassment rule. So personal attacks or whatever was not allowed on there.
What
it's-
do they? Did they go into detail on that?
Yeah, so making unproven claims or allegations against someone with the sole
Mhm.
intent of creating drama or damaging the public reputation is not
Yeah.
allowed. Spreading misinformation is not an opinion. So if you make an allegation, now you have to back it up with proof. You have to say, oh, Rom, he did some bad stuff, but you have to like have proof of it. If you don't, it will just be taken down, which I think is a fair assessment, right?
Sure.
I mean, if you're gonna make an allegation, you should be able to back it up, right? So,
Absolutely, that's fair.
and besides that, they also um, they relaxed the political rules on LSF to discuss politics and comments,
Okay.
which is, I guess nothing really. I mean, I don't think it really matters for creating a more positive environment, but
That could actually backfire
maybe
if
we'll see
they're
about
trying to
that.
build a more like positive thing, because people take their politics.
Yeah,
People are definitely not capable. There's a lot of people out there, I would say, that are not capable of discussing politics without, the conversation becoming just riddled with like, insults and ad hominems and things like that. So
yeah, we're definitely that'll be one to see how that goes. But
yeah.
so yeah, because they were talking about exceptions, like for example the Blizzard Hong Kong controversy in
Mm-hmm.
2019, and streamers were talking about it. So I think that was more political, right? And they
Sure.
apparently had like a tighter grasp on that. So I guess that's where they were leaning towards. But I feel like, yeah, as you said, that can definitely be something definitely backfiring on them. So we'll see how that goes for them.
Okay. So all right, yeah. So I mean, beyond then, like it's good to see like LSF taking steps right in the right
Right.
direction. But even beyond that, we've seen like video games try and take steps in the right direction. For instance, like Overwatch's endorsement system specifically, which they themselves, I believe, at one point shortly after, a few months after, I should say, releasing the endorsement system, said like reports of toxicity had gone down. I don't know how successful it's been, at this point, years later. I mean, what do you think of systems like that? Do you think that's is that enough for video games to do? Is it even the responsibility of video game publishers and developers to, you know,
To cut
help
back on.
foster a positive environment? Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. This is a tough one because I mean, this whole job is providing the content, not necessarily the environment behind it.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess
Mm-hmm.
it's to be expected when you create a multiplayer game like Overwatch. So
Mm-hmm.
I won't necessarily say. Well, okay, maybe I do think it might be on them because I mean, do you think creating a good environment for people to play in is one of the requirements?
Well, so I don't know if it's necessarily like it's I don't know if it's a direct responsibility, right? Because their
It
job is
helps
to make a
the
good
bottom line
game.
though. If you have a better environment, I mean, more people want to play it, right?
Exactly. That's the thing. Like it is in their best interest
Yeah,
to create an environment, but it is not their direct first and foremost responsibility. I'd rather they focus on, making a fun game stay fun.
right.
I'd rather like if I had to choose, I'd rather WoW developers focus on a game that wasn't riddled with RNG and just garbage systems that
Yeah,
sort
there's no
of,
more corruption. I mean, that's
it's just garbage, like I said. Like I'd rather they focus on making a game that just had less obnoxious systems, that tedious systems. Even leveling, you said leveling was
yeah. They're
tedious in
changing that
itself
now,
too.
so which I think is
Yeah,
good, but we'll see.
yeah. So like I'd rather they focus on that than creating it. I can self police, like the situations I put myself in. But I do know that in the long run, if they made certain small changes, like like you said, the endorsement system, or I know other MMOs have mentor systems. Warcraft, I don't.
But what is that
I like they
mentor
they used
system?
to have like, so it's like where a more accomplished player who has like X number of like achievements or like experience achievement points, whatever, within the game, they can like for instance in Guild Wars 2, I know that there is something called like where they can mark themselves to show up on the map, and they can quote unquote lead events. Like they just say join my quote unquote apple, and the apple obviously, like it stands for like someone being a teacher, and so they can lead these events, and they're expected to sort of guide the newer players into and to a point where they can complete these like dynamic events that are happening on the map or whatever. So I know like Warcraft doesn't have anything like that, right? Like for World Quests especially, like it's just sort of group finder, see what people join in, they get out, that's it. That without having a mentorship program within the game, like the game is lacking it. But again, I'd rather the developers focus
Right.
on the systems that directly affect my enjoyment of the game, and I can figure out the rest.
Yeah, so I
Maybe
mean,
in the long run, it's for the best for them to create something like that, but I don't know. I haven't heard of anything like that for Shadowlands.
well, yeah, I mean, so maybe that could foster more positive attitude because I think a lot of the issues is there's not enough directions
Yeah.
for new players, and that can create like a toxic mentality because for someone who's been playing like let's say World of Warcraft right for X number of years right something
Mm-hmm.
there are fundamental mechanics in the game that is like second nature to us. Like it's as easy as doing 2 plus 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then for someone who's just joining, it can be hard to like you don't understand what's going on, and maybe you join content that might be too high for your skill level,
Mm-hmm.
and that leads to toxicity. I know, for example, that which actually this is one of the main cases I think of toxicity in World of Warcraft, but
Mm-hmm.
when you have people when you had like Titan Forging, which allowed your gear to jump up in quality higher than what it should be for the content you were running, right?
Mm-hmm.
You had a possibility of getting now yet higher quality gear, which allowed you to get into higher levels of content, but you may not be ready for it, like skill wise, right? And so that led to toxicity because people at the higher skill level saw that maybe you were like skill wise were not ready for it, and that led to some clash because they felt their time was being wasted, and you personally felt like struggling because you don't know what was going on or were not ready for it, right? So
Yeah.
that could be some toxicity there. But yeah, a mentor program could help. I know they have when you're leveling up in World of Warcraft in dungeons, you can choose to like mark yourself as an expert. I think there's like a little flag you can click.
Oh, that's right. You're right. Yeah.
But I mean that's practically useless. I don't think anyone really looks at that. I think if they
No
explain,
one.
yeah, if they broke it up into like you experienced, like I think 2 or 3 different sections or like 3 ways to mark yourself. You're new, you're experienced, and you want to be like a mentor, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like your experience put me with other experienced players when you're leveling up, right? Maybe that could be some way to like speed it up, maybe because you're playing with other people who are kind of used to it.
Sure.
Or you're new, right? You're like, okay, I'm new, guys. It's worked on my character frame. I'm new. Help me out, or be more considerate, right?
Yeah.
Or you can be like, I want to be a leader. I can help other people, and then you can put like new people with like a one leader or something like that. So maybe
Yeah.
some kind of
Maybe.
action right there could work to help.
And it's something that just came to mind. The master loot changes. Like, I don't know what part of their motivation was, but I think some of it was simply just to help reduce guild drama.
I think no, that's pretty
Um,
much what it was.
that is what it was. a hundred
Yeah, pretty
percent.
much just they want to reduce the small minority. I don't know how much it was, but like people feeling the gear that they helped kill or helped
Yeah.
kill the boss for,
Yeah, I
they
wasn't a
didn't get
fan
like
of
a
that
fair
change.
share on that. So
Yeah, it's just I like maybe like nice try Blizzard, but it just I don't think that necessarily was the right way to go about it. But I mean, whatever. I think
I
they're
mean, I
pretty
understand where
set
they're
in there
coming
with their
from,
ways.
but so maybe heroic guilds
Mm-hmm.
they can keep personal choice on because I feel like this issue happens more and more with casual players, right? Because they don't necessarily understand the mentality, like because they're not like the guild's not hardcore rating in relative to the skill level,
Sure.
and B they're not necessarily have like the aptitude. Not I want to say aptitude, but like they're not understanding maybe why certain people are getting gear, right? And I'm not saying
Yeah.
nobody does it out of self selfish reasons, right? But
Mm-hmm.
as you get into like more higher mythic guilds, usually people give it out of just necessity to gear up certain players faster because they have an overall higher contribution to the raid. So they decided to get away with mass loot because of that guild drama
Yeah.
potential. I mean, I feel like if they return it back for mythic, it would probably be a better idea than.
Yeah. It was frustrating. Like right as they made that change, like that was kind of when people were like at least our sort of circle of raiders, we were pretty heavily involved in mythic and building a guild like that was it felt counterproductive. Like we wanted to be able to gear our DPS and tanks first before our healers, but leaving it up to RNG, just yet another element of RNG, in the game, was just incredibly frustrating. Like we lost what little control we had over gear, and to be able to funnel it to people would have been ideal to progress as a guild. But whatever. That's besides the point. Yeah. So, sorry, go ahead.
No, yeah, I mean, yeah, I just think, yeah, it kind of sucks, but I do kind of see maybe why they're doing it, but yeah.
Yeah, like I mean, I understand it. Like, of course, it naturally just completely removed the loot drama. Well, not completely, almost completely removed loot
I mean,
drama.
I feel like
maybe
it feels
some
worse then, right? Because if you have to give up your piece of gear.
Yeah, for the guilds that chose to like still somehow mandate people having to trade their gear. Yeah. That obviously that's created drama in itself.
Worse. Like, oh, I have this good stats gear just because I have a high level that's worse, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have to give it up to someone because my guild leader said so. And it's like, I already have it now. Just let me keep it. And,
Yeah.
But
so yeah, I don't know. Is there any more? Anything else left to talk about with regards to the toxicity thing? Are we?
No, I mean, just in general, like, there's all these subgroups, with the female toxicity. There was actually, Ferociously Steph. I don't know if you remember her. She was on Twitch Council. She brought up toxicity when it comes to voice chatting. She said that voice chat is inherently unfair because people are disadvantaged just due to their voices. Because you can identify, whether their gender, right? Obviously the gender, or maybe some races also. And I think she was misguided on how she was talking about that and trying to go how the way she was going about that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I will agree with her on the point that yes, it can cause some people, like, as for my personal experience, I don't know how common this is. People who are female, obviously, right? Because that's easy target right there for people, low-hanging fruit, as we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also Asian people, right? Because they have a different accent, way different accent.
Sure.
Whenever they talk, I would hear people making fun of them, mocking them, right, for the accent, right?
For sure.
And I don't mean to downplay females, but I feel like again that's one of the low-hanging fruit people can talk about, or people choose to make fun of or use as toxicity.
Yeah, I mean, I do get that. Like, so okay, as someone, I'll just put it out there on the podcast. I am a brown-skinned person. Like it becomes, like you said, low-hanging fruit, and I don't care about it so much. Like when people bring up like jokes about me being brown or something, which is fine within certain contexts, but like when we're just screwing around or whatever and just like riffing back and forth, but it's more annoying when it's the only thing brought up. Like, do you understand what I mean? Like it gets boring, and it's just like there's a lack of creativity to those sorts of insults. So it's like the fact that I have to hear it so often is more the problem rather than the actual act of hearing it. So I mean, I kind of get what it becomes a part of like your identity and kind of like the sole identifier, like how people know you. And so it becomes just an easy jab rather than, people actually being creative with their punchlines. Like I don't know. Like, what do you think about that?
I mean, yeah, I agree with you. They're looking for something. They're just trying to search for something. Because I don't, like, this might be untrue, right? But from my personal experience, I don't think they actually hate these different groups, right? Female, brown, Asian, right? I don't think they actually hate these people. They're looking for a reason. And in the past, these groups have been, victimized or made fun of in one way or another, right?
Yeah.
And so it's something for them to latch onto. They're looking for, as you said, a punchline.
Sure.
And they think they found one, but after a while, it's just like, what are you doing? Well, why are you doing it?
It's boring after a while. It's just I get tired of it. Again, not because of the jab itself, but because I have to hear it so often. So that's why, like with as we head into Shadowlands, and as I play more and more like Overwatch, like the last thing I want to do is put it out there that I have brown skin, just because it's just like it becomes just your sole identifier, and it's just eye roll inducing basically.
Has people been in front of you for that in World of Warcraft?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Have people like use that as like ammunition against you in World of Warcraft?
Yeah, so like for instance, so we our old tank, if you remember in our old guild, was an African American gentleman, and so that became kind of his sole identifier. And as people learned about like different races, like that's just like it's just easy fodder, and it's like why even give them that? Like I'd rather just be known as the person I am, and
You're
rather
down to
than
mechanics? Wait,
constantly
what?
having to deal with the same shit. What? Sorry.
No, 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 nothing.
Yeah, so yeah, heading into like whatever next guild I'm in, like yeah, I'll be a little more hesitant to sort of give people ammunition to, or give them access to that low hanging fruit, I guess. Just cuz it's so tiring to hear that same stuff over and over. Like if I have to hear any more like a poo jokes or whatever, like it's just like it's just old news. Like we're better than this. So if you want to insult me, you can be better than that. So I don't know.
Well, I
So
mean,
yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Yeah, again, as I said, I don't know when this will change or how this is going to change, but I think it's going to go,
Hmm.
very slowly, but eventually it'll reach I think, a breaking point.
Yeah, and it's good to see LSF sort of take it upon themselves to improve the content people see, and in a more, or at least spin it in a more positive way if they can. It's good to see like that wholesomeness come out of the community, because I mean again like the reverberations of his Reckful's death, like they went pretty far. Like even one of our mutual friends, who you and I know as like kind of like he prides himself on being this emotionless person. He owned up to being like, what? Yeah, Reckful's death affected me. It's like, wow, like that's a big deal coming from him, right?
Yeah, and that is, he's known
Yeah,
to be like, I would not say red pill, but more just, I guess less inclined to about being emotional, right? So
yeah,
it
yeah.
was pretty surprising,
So
honestly, but
so to see that, and like it's a big deal. So yeah, to wrap it up, I mean, do you want to, I mean, we could probably end on a slightly more positive note. What's been going on with you in your gaming time? What have you been
I mean,
sort
I've
of
been
up to?
playing in WoW, as you may know, but
Mm-hmm.
I've been playing some PvP, and it's so terrible. It's just warlocks
Yeah.
just casting chaos bolts after chaos bolts,
Yeah.
incredibly high haste, right? It's just chaos bolt, fear, chaos bolt. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do? I then cast out, get off a third chaos bolt. You trying to run
Eh,
away to the pillar?
yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, that's funny. Trying to run away. Now the chaos bolt comes out.
And that's when you break out the toxicity, right?
Exactly. I messaged her
Yeah.
like playing broken ass class. You think you're good or something?
Yeah. You make
I
fun of their
remember,
mothers.
like, I mean, I don't know, because it's like people's comp is warlock and fire mage.
Mm-hmm.
So you have, so these are big hitting abilities they can use. Greater pyroblast and chaos bolts.
Mm-hmm.
How many stops can you do actually? How many times can you stop them before you're just standing in between them and just watching them? You have no kicks, no cooldown,
Yeah.
and just casting one greater pyro, one chaos bolt, and it's just
And
all
your
over.
goal is 2400, right?
Yeah, I mean, in reality, of course, you could play around them, but it's it's not that bad, like actually, but it gets so annoying, honestly.
Yeah, it's frustrating. Yeah, I get that. What about, is not much Overwatch then?
I've been playing a little bit Overwatch. Played a couple of games, I think 3100.
Yeah.
Nothing, just a little bit of climbing, but that's about it. Mostly, I haven't had too much time, but recently, but
Yeah.
yeah, just a little bit of gaming here or there. Hopefully, I'm hoping to play The Last of Us 2 actually, so we'll see.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
gonna get that. I'll get that soon, maybe in August or something. Maybe if it goes on sale, that'd be cool. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, you may as well at that point. I mean, you could wait till Black
Christmas,
Friday.
or yeah, Black
Yeah,
Friday, Christmas. We'll see
yeah,
how the
yeah.
it
I've been,
goes.
so I mean, with me, I've just been uh playing.
Well,
I
actually,
mean, splitting my
Shadowlands
time.
comes out during that time, so I don't know
What
what.
comes out?
Shadowlands, probably.
Oh, right, right, right.
So
That's
yeah,
true. I mean,
I'll do it
Last of
earlier.
Us 2 is a pretty big game, though. I would rather play Last of Us 2 than maybe Shadowlands. I don't know. We'll see with how it's looking.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I haven't been playing much live. I've been mostly playing classic WoW, and just started my placements for the new season for Overwatch just the other day. on my garbage account. I even actually I don't think I've mentioned this on the podcast yet. I've started streaming a bit. So for those of you who are listening, I know we have, tens of thousands of listeners.
Right.
At the ROM Show on Twitch, the ROM Show, just as it sounds.
We'll actually also
Yeah.
have it down below in the description also.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be good. Yeah, I just been like I said, streaming my placements, streaming some classic WoW. I even played with one of my viewers. That we did some placements together, so that was kind of fun. And I have very few viewers, so I can't promise that with everyone. If by some random chance it actually blows up to more than 1 or 2 viewers. But yeah, just I'm like only a few streams in, 3-4 streams in. But yeah, just being positive, not being too toxic, and
Right.
yeah, just having a good time. So as far as what we're going to be doing in future episodes, so while we've had these big heavy episodes about the sexual assault allegations for 2 episodes, some now this conversation on toxicity, we might dial it back a bit, right? Ash, we might talk about slightly smaller scale issues within the gaming world. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we have some other ideas. I think one of them, it might be next episode, is talking about guilds and all that coming up.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, slightly
could
more evergreen, timeless
Right.
episodes that hold up over.
as
Right.
you guys may know, Ram and I have both been officers in our previous guild, so
Mhm.
we have some experience there, experienced guild members. So that might be a future episode where we talk about all that experience, and we have some, I would say, pretty good stories to share also.
We do.
Yeah,
We do. Certain G quitting letters.
we won't talk about that right now, but we'll save
Yeah,
it for
we
the next episode.
we might get into it. Yeah. So, all right. Well, I think we're wrapping up here. It feels like we are. So, Ash, for Ash and myself, thank you very much for joining us on episode 4 of GamerWatch. We hope to get this episode posted with both versions of audio, both sides of audio, unlike our
I don't know what
maybe
you're talking
scuffed
about.
attempt with episode 3, but
I
we
don't
won't
know- I
talk
don't know
about
what
it.
you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll just move past that. Anything
Right.
you want to throw in there?
No, just thanks for coming by, and we'll see you guys next time.
Yeah. Thank you. Have a good one.